So in regard to the controversy and Beyonce discourse about her wearing the Buffalo Soldier shirt on the Cowboy Carter tour, I think two things can be true at once. One, Beyonce and her team are known for researching and incorporating a lot of history into her music and art. But somewhere along the line, they kind of missed the mark on this one. Somehow there was an oversight with printing that whole thing out on the back of the shirt, referring to natives and Mexican revolutionaries as enemies of peace. And forgoing the fact that the Buffalo Soldiers did in fact take part in mass killings of Indigenous people. So somehow in their effort to celebrate Black Americans and Black soldiers, Beyonce and her team kind of missed that little tidbit. Secondly, while the Buffalo Soldiers did engage in mass killings of Indigenous people, what people are missing is nuance and context.
Hello wonderful people, welcome once again to another episode on my YouTube page. I'm Marvin. For those new to this channel, also make sure to share this video if you find it educative. Our talk today will be on Native America. Are Native Americans really Americans? In Native American and indigenous culture, hair is more than just hair or a style. For different nations and tribes, hair is considered a connection to Creator and the spiritual world. Many natives are against cutting their hair and keep their hair in braids as part of that. They may only cut it when mourning or for other ceremonial reasons. This does vary by tribe, as Native Americans are not a monolith, so each tribe or nation might have its own beliefs regarding hair. Considering Native American and indigenous identity, remember that hair is something that's important and sometimes sacred and not just a style. Native American applies to all indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. It just also happens to be a political and racial identity in the US. This debate comes about when Beyonce wore a Buffalo Soldier shirt. It is causing a lot of arguments in media. The Buffalo Soldiers were usually deployed against tribes who owned black slaves or helped slave catchers. The background music is Buffalo Soldier by Bob Marley. The Native American don't get that the Black American response to native slave owners was the Buffalo Soldiers. Let's watch the following arguments.
This is a very complex topic, and we need to stop oversimplifying it. It's factually incorrect to say the Buffalo Soldiers are colonizers, because if you research it, you'll find that a majority of the Buffalo Soldiers were made up of free slaves. Slavery was abolished in this country in 1865, and the Buffalo Soldiers started their work in 1866. And as you know, just because slavery was abolished does not mean Black people suddenly stopped being mistreated. Being a part of the Buffalo Soldiers was a way for Black people to survive, work for a living. They were also illiterate and being fed propaganda by the US government to carry out these missions. In essence, this is what white supremacy does. It pits two marginalized groups against each other, which in turn prevents them from fighting their actual enemy, which is the Caucasians. In conclusion, and I say this as a Beyonce stan, a lot of the critiques are valid. And it's okay to critique where critique is needed. However, I don't believe in going to the other end of the spectrum and saying Beyonce is like the devil and that she's evil, because this obviously wasn't intentional. If you're a fan, you know she is meticulous and a perfectionist, but she's also human. It happens. We make mistakes. She's gonna make a mistake eventually. But it's crazy how people are just like waiting in the wings for anything to come up to justify their hatred towards this woman. Because truth be told, a lot of people didn't even know what the Buffalo Soldiers were until this happened, myself included. And they're using it as a means just to drag Beyonce. You don't care about the Buffalo Soldiers, you care about bringing down Beyonce. But at the same time, she is a woman with massive influence and power, and her name is on that shirt and she's wearing the shirt. So it looks bad to some people, and some people feel like she needs to clarify, which is also justifiable. You know, Beyonce, for the most part, has always been on the right side of history. This was an oversight.
On today's episode of Why I Hate Beyonce, the Native Americans are mad. I mean, they are furious. They are furious because my sis wore a Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt. Now, half of y'all didn't even know the history or knew nothing about the Buffalo Soldiers, but y'all are mad. Y'all mad because y'all done heard some Anglo-Saxon give a think piece about it, and then y'all went to go do y'all Google research and whatever. Now y'all mad too. Okay, but if you want to be mad, you can be mad because we already know you didn't like Beyonce in the first place, so she ain't losing no fan. She ain't losing no money. She damn sure ain't losing no sleep. But when that Anglo-Saxon president got up on that stage and said that y'all ain't even the real Native Americans, he basically said y'all playing. He basically said y'all playing and y'all some imposters and you ain't even the real Native Americans, that the blacks are the real natives. I didn't hear not. And look, I look at enough news, CNN stuff for it to be in my algorithms if y'all was making some think piece about that Anglo-Saxon president of ours. But y'all I ain't seen not one think piece going off on Trump when he said y'all was not the real natives. That y'all over there playing and collecting money. I didn't see not one. So where was that outrage? Oh, but y'all be scared of them other skin folks. Talk about it. Oh, and another thing. He allegedly got about 65% of y'all vote. Clock it.
That shirt isn't Beyonce saying that natives were enemies. It's actually the historical quote from the U.S. government that they told the Buffalo Soldiers. And it's got y'all so hot at Beyonce and black people just as a whole, which is interesting. So during the late 1800s, the Buffalo Soldiers were promised freedom, land, and citizenship if they participated in the westward expansion. They told the black soldiers that the natives were hostile savages and enemies of peace. That's how they convinced them, along with the lies and promises. It was just propaganda. They were being tricked by a system that enslaved them to help that empire further expand and build and oppress, all under a guise. They were manipulated. Beyonce wore that shirt to bring awareness to the manipulation, to the hypocrisy of the U.S. government. She's not siding with colonizers. She's actually informing the people how black and natives were used and pitted against each other because they were lied to. The real enemies are not natives and black people. Who do you think it is? It's not Beyonce either. Y'all going real hard. The indigenous groups, the native groups or whatever are going real hard with that anti-black stuff, and that's real interesting. It's kind of hurtful too. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's real racist out here. It got racist real fast too. But I mean, at the same time, I'm a black American, so I'm used to being criminalized for just trying to live and survive.
So the Buffalo Soldier shirt that Beyonce was wearing has had indigenous people asking people, rightfully so, to educate themselves on who the Buffalo Soldiers were, their role in the colonial expansion west, in wiping out Native Americans, even massacring Native Americans in some cases, and taking away Native American land. So I've been educating myself, and you know what I found out? So this isn't talked about often, but we know that many Native Americans enslaved black people in this country. And the 5 tribes profited off slavery so much so that they fought for the Confederacy to keep slavery alive on Native land. And so when the Civil War ended and the Emancipation Proclamation was signed and slaves were supposed to be immediately free as of 1863, you know what? Slavery did not end for black people on Native American lands until 1866. Yes, we talk about Juneteenth and how slaves in Texas were not told they were free until 2 years after slavery. Native Americans did not free their slaves until 1866, 3 years after they were supposed to be free. But because those tribes were sovereign to the United States, they didn't have to free their slaves, and didn't. And it wasn't until the treaties of 1866 that they freed their slaves. And once slavery ended on Native land, it's not like, oh, kumbaya, cool. You know, they were often denied rights, denied humanity, kicked off the land for not being indigenous, etc., and had to go find some other place to live, like fucking where. And while there were Native American tribes who were against slavery and who even safe harbored runaway slaves, I don't think we can talk about the role the Buffalo Soldiers played in the colonial expansion west and the erasure of Native Americans without also talking about the role Native Americans had in enslaving black people and the treatment of black people in this country.
Here's what I think about Beyonce's Buffalo Soldier shirt. I see a lot of people saying that the soldiers were forced and so they weren't doing it out of their own will. Even though I think that's very sad for black Americans, I think we also need to account that there's other victims in the story. Many indigenous people are saying that they felt offended by the shirt. And I think that we should respect that. A lot of times we tell white people that when we're offended by something, they just need to take it as that because we said we're offended. No explanation. And even though we are also victims in the story, I think we need to take our own advice. And they were fully right to be mad too. The shirt said, and I quote, "Their antagonists were enemies of peace and settlement, battling Indians and Mexican revolutionaries." And I'm sorry, if this were the other way around, I know we would not take this. Yes, nuance. Yes, not every part of history is clean. I get that. But with the state of our country and everything with ICE, I don't think this was the best part of history to rep.
To all the natives talking about Beyonce and the Buffalo Soldiers, shut the fuck up. Tell the whole goddamn truth. You enslaved us. That's why the Buffalo Soldiers had no problems eradicating your asses. Tell the whole goddamn truth. Excuse me, the Buffalo Soldiers was born in 1866, and the Cherokee did not actually free their slaves until 1863. You think 3 years is enough fucking time for me to goddamn forgive you? Even after Django was freed, do you know Django still took that money? Like many people did. You give us the option to take down people who enslaved us, we'll have no problem with it. Even the people who didn't enslave us, like the freaking Creek Indians, they would turn us in to slave catchers. So you got what the hell you deserved. Don't cry. Don't deflect. The moment you freaking deflect, you just make me that much angrier. As someone who's a direct descendant of people who were actually enslaved by the goddamn Choctaw. Fuck off.
You could be a fan of Beyonce and point out where she misses the mark. I'm gonna repeat it again. You could be a fan of Beyonce and point out where she misses the mark. The discourse regarding the Buffalo Soldiers and her wearing the t-shirt the last 24 hours has been all over my timeline. We are all aware of Black America's history with the military. If you've been to any museum, any documentary you've seen, or just talk to veterans, you know that there's a very torrid history. We can acknowledge the complexity of it, but we also can't gloss over the fact that they aided settlers in unaliving Indigenous people. And you as a fan have no right to silence or speak over Native Americans that do or don't have a problem with it. Because I know not every person is not a monolith in a community. And there's no way to have this kind of conversation online because you have the stand saying, you know, shut up, y'all doing too much. And then you have the people that are overly critical of Beyonce in general saying, oh, you're just giving her a pass because you're a fan of her. I will say this was an oversight with the team in regards to her wearing the shirt, because we know our girl loves to research, and her putting it in front and center, I think she saw it as one thing and people are seeing it as another thing, and we can admit that she missed on that front. It won't be addressed directly unless people are loud enough about it, but specifically from the community that it harmed, because we know Beyonce does not care about what the press says, but if it's from directly the community, then she's going to care and she's going to want to fix that.
So I think it's really interesting right now that the TikTok community is talking about Beyonce's Buffalo Soldier shirt that she wore at her concert. It's causing a lot of disagreements online, a lot of discourse, but I think it's time we start a dialogue, you guys. History is not black or white. It is not black or white. Just because you are a native doesn't mean you are a saint. My people were literally owned by the Creek Nation and other tribes for over 100 years. Like, I have it on paper. They paid $200 to my grandma, my grandpa, on multiple sides of my family. My people still live in Choctaw Nation till this day. The capital of Choctaw Nation. They're still there. There's no black or white. We were owned by this guy. We were owned by this guy. We were owned by this guy. But you know what? I'm not anti-native. I know that there are a variety of scenarios, and that's something I kind of dislike about the internet, is that there are no like gray areas. There's gray areas, you guys. You know what I mean? Not all the Buffalo Soldiers were bad. Were some of them killing Indians? Yeah. Natives? Yes. Indigenous people? Yes, they were. Were they all bad? No. Were natives owning us? They literally just passed us back and forth, my family. Like, I know that this guy was beheaded by natives because they didn't like the way that they treated us. There was literally a native that liberated us. So, you guys, things are not black and white. There's a reason why a lot of those Buffalo Soldiers were fighting in those wars against natives. It's not as simple as you think. But it is interesting, and I'm glad we're starting a discourse about it.
So first, black people were settlers, right? Y'all remember the girl that said black people were settlers, then had to backtrack and say, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Now, because Beyonce wore a Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt, she agrees with the genocide of natives. I don't know what's going on, but the way that y'all are not taking into account of African American pain and struggles and the things that we had to do to survive post chattel slavery is genuinely disgusting to me. I'm tired of y'all trying to make black people look like we are oppressors in this country. It's really getting to a point, and I need y'all to stop. What we not finna do is get on the Buffalo Soldier. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like, we're not doing that because y'all are not providing context. Like, y'all aren't.
So instead of saying you don't like Beyonce, y'all have decided to mishandle, mislead, and rewrite Black history for the sake of personal grievances. Got it. I wrote a post and I posted it on here, but I guess y'all don't want to read either. So I guess I'll have to come on your For You page and explain it for you. The history with the Buffalo Soldiers is a complicated history. And most importantly, as stated, it is Black history. And history on American soil isn't going to be beautiful and it isn't going to be easy. I am so sick and tired of seeing and hearing the word nuance because that does not exist in context of history. Two things can be true at once. Two things are true at once. The first thing is the simple fact that Buffalo Soldiers had to leave one form of enslavement to another, and that is within the military. They didn't do this because they wanted to. They did this because they had to. They wanted equal rights. They wanted freedom. They wanted life. And that was the only way that they were going to get it on American soil. And unfortunately, for that fight of freedom, their bloodline had to create bloodstains. So yes, the Buffalo Soldiers did have to commit atrocities towards Indigenous peoples. But that is because merely Black Americans were used as a pawn in America's game that they had been playing for a very long time. To use the complexities of their own doing to pin Indigenous peoples across the board against each other for their own benefit and their own will. And due to this, we have this common theme that we see in Black American history where white violence is disguised as Black excellence. We are living in a time where there is an administration in office trying to rewrite and erase Black history, but they don't have to do it themselves anymore because people on TikTok, people on Twitter are doing it for them. And the only reason why this is happening is in spite of this woman. And the language that is used on back of the shirt is very important because it is gross, it is disturbing, it is uncomfortable because it shows how history, and even history now, how it is being presented and how it is being written. There is an important key to that. And I'm so sorry that half of y'all do not get off of TikTok, that half of y'all do not get off of Twitter to open up an African American textbook, to go out into a museum to see that this language is also prominent in those places because it is showing and is preserving the history that is being shown. And I'm sure in the interweb of not liking Beyonce, having anti-Blackness, and truly just not liking American history is creating y'all to be really dense and have a one-sided view of this very complicated history, and that cannot exist when it comes to examining Black history. And yes, I am angry because my history is being taken out of my hands and being rewritten, that people that seem to look like me, seem to know who I am and who we are in our stories, but don't.
A lot of y'all are using this Beyonce situation as a tool, as a reason or a way to push your hateful agenda about the fact that you just don't like this woman and you want her to fail. And I don't want to fucking hear it in my comments talking about, no, we don't want her to fail with it. You want her to crash and burn. If she died, I believe a lot of y'all will be fucking happy. That's how deep some of y'all hate is for her. She could have had on a shirt with Chucky and his bride on it, and y'all would have easily jumped on her and been like, did you see that shirt that she wore? She is clearly endorsing serial killers. You were looking for a reason. You were willing to ride this coattail. And you know how I know you are? A lot of y'all videos, some of y'all ain't even saying nothing. You're just sitting there staring with, oh, I can't believe she wore that shirt. Because you know you don't know anything about it. You know you don't know any historical significance or facts about it. You just saw it was a trend and you could get views, so you jumped on it. Then a lot of y'all aren't listening to each other. I saw a video where a young lady said one thing, and then a dude had the audacity to duet or stitch her video and then say, that's why I'm about to shut you down right now. And he literally said the same exact shit that she said. So that proves that you're not even listening to each other. Y'all not even listening to each other. You're not having a conversation about this. You just said the same thing that she said. And then when you look at all his comments and all the shit that he liked, it was all talking about how people hate Beyonce. It was never about the Buffalo Soldiers. Never about the Buffalo Soldiers. In the one Native American comment that I could find, that person said, we are not offended by the shirt itself. We know the historical significance of this situation. It's just that one little part in there. And that was where they were called the enemies of peace. And that is what most actual Native Americans have been saying. And a lot of them are not offended at all. They're not bothered at all. It is simply black people who hate Beyonce and white women. Y'all was looking for any reason to go hard. And I am not a diehard Beyonce fan by no means. If she fuck up and make a mistake or say something fucked up, at the end of the day, I have to remember, these people popped out of a vagina the same way I did. What makes me think they're not capable of making mistakes or doing shit and being like, fuck, I didn't think that was right. Like sometimes, and I see a lot of y'all putting celebrities in a certain place. Sometimes y'all think, well, you're a celebrity. You shouldn't do that. I'm gonna need for y'all to look at who some of y'all voted for. That one can fuck up as much as he been fucking up. The average singer and movie star can fuck up. Quit putting these people on a pedestal to think they can't make a mistake or they can't. Well, they should have known better. I mean, you should have known better too, but I mean, you still got like 3 baby daddies. Ain't with none of them. Shouldn't you have known better? It happens. People do things. People make mistakes. People think they're doing one thing right and they might not be. And honestly, I get why she wore it. It was Juneteenth when she wore it. Now, granted, she probably didn't see that passage on the back, or she probably did. Who knows? Everything I noticed lately, everything Beyonce do got a hidden agenda behind it. But a lot of y'all are simply just jumping on this bandwagon because you do not fucking like this woman. And I would say on behalf of black people who understand their history and real Native Americans who also understand their history, don't take our history and try to ride it because you don't like this woman. Like, seriously. Don't do that.
All the people whining about Buffalo Soldiers fail to mention the slavery by natives, which by comparison, the natives were categorically worse. The Buffalo Soldiers did nothing wrong. They targeted a community known to enslave blacks and turned them into slave catchers. The Buffalo Soldiers weren't villains. They were survivors. Just like Beyonce, they used what they had to make a statement in a world that weaponizes black existence. So it's funny when black people want to be native. So Native Americans are mad at Beyonce for wearing a Buffalo Soldier shirt during her tour performance, also claiming that it caused the division between blacks and natives. This is not about Beyonce, not Buffalo Soldiers. This is about status. What are your thoughts on Beyonce wearing a Buffalo Soldier shirt? Is she promoting genocide? Talk to me. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. And remember, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, family. Bye.